Okay, well, let's make this official and start today's program. Appreciate everybody being here this morning. Welcome to Franklin Tomorrow Frank Talks. It is January 13th, and I'm Mindy Tate, CEO of Franklin Tomorrow, and we're so glad you're with us this morning. We are lucky that we can have the webinar option because the library is actually closed until 11 today. And so we would have been without a home. I know it's been confusing and we jumped around a little bit on this event, but we are glad you are able to join us. If you have any questions for our panelists or questions in general, you're welcome to put those in the chat or just send them directly to me via chat. But this is our People to Know, always a great fun way to kick off the new year and this year is 2025, in case no one's had to write that down yet. It is 2025. I am fine. I look a little bit like a penguin or something like that, but I had some skin cancer surgery last week and am doing well from that and looking forward to how the positive outcome of that. So stay positive in this new year. So thanks for being here this morning. As you know, Frank Talks is a monthly lecture series, and we are able to do this thanks to our generous sponsors, which include Atmos Energy, which is a sustaining partner for Franklin Tomorrow. We appreciate their support for Franklin Tomorrow. Also, Williamson Health, they're a sustaining partner for Williamson County for Franklin Tomorrow. And Emily, I think we're going to try to play a video. We're going to see how that goes on a webinar.
Try.
A lot of exciting stuff has been happening at Williamson Health. One of the new developments is we have a brand new intensive care unit and intermediate care unit. We call it an ICU/IMCU.
We have increased our capacity from 20 to 35 beds. Originally, we were 2 10-bed units, and by having 35 beds, we are now able to keep up with the growth in Williamson County.
We have the capability to take care of a broad spectrum of things here in this unit. So all the way from, life and death situations in a critical setting, but also just in a step-down monitored way for patients who aren't quite as ill but are too sick to be on the regular wards in the hospital.
As an intensivist, our job is to help oversee the sickest patients in the hospital. A lot of times when patients would be very sick before, we'd have to send them downtown. Now that we have the intensivist program, almost all those patients can stay here at the hospital and be close to family, be close to loved ones.
We've been able to provide these multidisciplinary rounds where every day it's both myself, the intensive care provider, the bedside nurse, the respiratory therapist, the clinical pharmacist that's in charge of the ICU, everybody standing together and discussing each patient individually so that we can come up with that streamlined care plan, everybody on the same page, and taking care of these patients that are very complicated in the best way possible.
A big advantage of the new ICU is that we have all the rooms on one floor and we have a central office, and so the nurses always know where we are. We don't have to run up and down stairs to see a sick patient. It's just walk around the corner.
You bond with the families and the caregivers. It's a very important time for everybody in that patient's life, and so we're able to really be a big part of that experience and hopefully have a good outcome.
Growing community with Williamson and its neighboring counties are going to continue to grow. The need for additional services here at Williamson, and the ICU team and the IMCU team are standing ready for the challenges of the growth. We will grow not only in physical space, but we'll grow with our education and expansions of services, but we're ready to take on the challenge.
Great. Thank you so much, Emily, for playing that. And then our presenting partner for Frank Talks is Renaissance Bank, and they have a partnership with a great fun organization, SEC Shorts. And we've all been watching a lot of football in the last couple of weeks, but it's now decided. And so we'll play a little video, quick video from SEC Shorts, the spiraling SEC.
In a word, disappointing. What happened out there? beatdowns?
Yeah, beat down.
Yeah, I'm good with that description of events.
We're supposed to be the SEC, the beacon of college football excellence.
Not this year.
Not even close.
Yeah, the opposite.
This loser couldn't even score from the 1 yard line.
Hey, in his defense, he only had 5 tries in a row.
Ooh, I know. I'm not getting dunked on by Nealon North and sideline interference king over here.
Enough! This is what I'm talking about, y'all. The SEC is in a really dark place right now. This is 2 years in a row we haven't won a national championship. Our best quarterbacks are going to Miami, and Mississippi State is still a vested conference member.
Ugh.
But today is the day we start the rebuild. And to begin that process, I've asked our marketing firm to send us a motivational speaker who can speak on the keys to winning and how we can sustain success.
Hello! My name is the Ohio State University, and I'll be your motivational speaker today.
What? Absolutely not. I did not ask for them to hire Ohio State.
No, but you told your marketing team to hire a team that represents a winning tradition, sustained success, and a history of excellence. Ta-da!
Yeah, but I was kind of hoping they were going to send us like the early 90s Buffalo Bills or something. Guys, my doctor said my leg's supposed to be elevated. Can we sit back down?
There we go. Looks like everyone's settling in, so let's get started. How to become a winner by the Ohio State.
Step 1, assemble a roster with an NIL fund the size of the GDP of a small country.
I'll tell you what is not step 1. Losing your franchise starter quarterback to Miami.
He's only going there because of his girlfriend, and so he can have more service department options for his Ferrari. Okay?
Okay.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure the Gunnar Stockton era is going to be just peaches.
Oh, well, he can't be more mid than Nico.
Nico is not mid.
Nico is definitely mid.
Mid first round of the NFL draft, maybe.
Oh, and thanks for the tune-up game. It's not often you get your third-string freshman quarterback some reps in a playoff game.
Happy to be of service.
What you should have done is try to mix in some screen passes.
Screen passes, the latest breakthrough from the Mike Bobo School of Offensive Innovation.
Maybe this conference deserved to get clowned by Brett Bielema in the bowl game.
Okay, let's focus here. Some ideas to get your conference back on track. Have your biggest game of the week kick off at noon. Have weird trophies for every single rivalry game.
And have your conference championship game in a thriving center of culture like Indianapolis.
How many plays you got from the 1 yard line again?
5. It was 5.
You know, the best thing about this season being over is that you can no longer say anything that can hurt me.
Quentin Ewers announces he's coming back to Texas for another year.
Really?
Okay, no, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Y'all have to toughen up if you ever get back to winning championships.
Wow, such great advice. Things we can really think on and build on. I think the big thing we can all take away here is, sure, we might have had a down year, but in the SEC, it's hard to keep a big program down.
You mean it? I was starting to get worried. Hey, wait. Can I come in now? I think there might be some naysayers out here.
Ouch. Maybe this one should have gone to the transfer portal. This episode is brought to you by Renaissance Bank. Understanding you.
Okay, Tony Sharp, we're sorry about that Alabama slam, but you know, we're all SEC. We'll get through it, I guess. So one of our panelists this morning, we're going to start out by having you get to know our new board chair, Peggy Kidd, and Peggy's on here with us. And Peggy is going to be serving, as I said, as the board chair for Franklin tomorrow. This is our 25th year, Peggy, and so I know you're pretty excited about that, right?
I am really excited about it, and I'm honored to be chair. And we have lots of fun things coming up this year and celebrating the last 25 years of success in Franklin.
I think that
And
sometimes,
just a side note, I'm from Ohio, so even though I'm not a huge Buckeye fan, I kind of like that video.
oh, that's great. That's great. So you've been on our board now for how many years?
Gosh, I moved to Franklin about 6 years ago and joined the board probably 5 years ago.
Mhm.
I came to I came to Breakfast with the Mayors and fell in love with Franklin and Franklin Tomorrow, and I had to get involved.
That's great. So I've got this unique question that I heard somebody ask the other day as they were trying to get to know someone. Instead of where did you grow up, the question is, where did you learn to ride a bike? So where did you learn to ride a bike? Tell us a little bit about your past and your history.
Wow. I learned to ride a bike in Jackson, Ohio, which is a really small town in Ohio. And as my kids would say, I was born in the 1900s, and I can't get over that one. So I was born in Ohio in a very small town, very much like Franklin, except this is a town of 5,000 people. Went to school at Miami University, moved to San Diego right after that because I wanted to work on a cruise ship. But being 22 and no internet, didn't realize that there were any cruise ships in California. So I ended up going back to Florida to work on a cruise ship as a blackjack dealer for a year, and then went back to San Diego and worked in the corporate world for about 10 years, and then moved to nonprofit. So I've been executive director for a couple different nonprofits and then executive director for a foundation.
So what's your first memory of Franklin? Because you visited Franklin, obviously several times before you moved here. What's your first memory of coming to Franklin?
Wow, that's a really good question. I think it was downtown Franklin. My brother lives here with his family, my brother Doug Kidd, who some of you probably know. And we did come for Christmas and we came for Thanksgiving, and they took us to downtown Franklin, and it was just stunning, so cute. And I love the vibrancy and the history. That's probably my first memory before I even moved here.
And so you moved here, and how have you gotten engaged in the community other than with Franklin Demar?
I've been really involved with the school. I have 13-year-old twin girls, so that keeps me pretty busy. So I've been on senior leadership teams, PTO, HOA, Franklin Tomorrow, Patricia Hart Society. I just love getting involved. I feel like I'm very, very blessed. I don't want to help out in any way that I can.
That's great. And so what do you think is the best thing that you've learned since living in Franklin and being part of Franklin Tomorrow?
One of the best things about Franklin in itself is just the sense of community. I moved here for family. And I remember when we first moved here, my kids were starting to sell Girl Scout cookies, which they always did in San Diego. And in San Diego, they'd go house to house and nobody would really answer the door just because they're busy. But I remember when we moved here, they walked across the street. I just met my neighbor. They walk inside. They're gone for 10 minutes. I'm staring, like ready to break down the door to see what happened. And then they come out 10 minutes later. They had hot chocolate, cookies, a donation to the Girl Scouts, and I think they bought 10 boxes. And I thought, okay, I'm in the right place. This is the place that I want to live. And I feel like Franklin Tomorrow is so much about the community, just a place where you can learn from people, learn from the city. You can participate, you can get engaged, you can have your opinion and your voice heard. And I love that about Franklin Tomorrow. I really feel like it's one of Franklin's greatest assets.
Thank you so much. Now, those twin 13-year-old girls, they're pretty busy and active, aren't they? They're both cheerleaders. Is that right?
They're both cheerleaders in sideline and competition. And I never thought they would go into it because I was a cheerleader. So they did not want to be a cheerleader at all, but their friends are. And so that's what they do, whatever their friends want to do. But they love it. They love Franklin. Yeah. I mean, just the way that the teachers care about them, say that they love them, give them hugs, text me on the weekend, pictures from first grade. I mean, and now they're in seventh. So just the sense of community spills into everywhere that we go.
Well, great. Thank you so much. And people will be seeing you more as we go forward, both at FrankTalks. And then we've got our first breakfast with the mayors on January 28th. And so we will have more time together then. But thanks for being here this morning. And
I'm excited to get to know everybody.
I know, it'd be fun. So this is People to Know. So that's our first person to know, Peggy Kidd, our new Franklin Tomorrow board chair. And thank you so much. But now we're going to move on. Lee Reeves is our newly elected, soon to be sworn, I think.
Tomorrow,
tomorrow, state representative from the 65th district. So Lee, I'm going to ask you the question, where did you learn to ride a bike? And tell us that, and then we'll delve into a little bit more about your role as a state rep.
Sure. Well, first of all, I want to thank you for inviting me on. It's important to get in front of the community as much as possible. And what a great question. It's definitely an interesting angle on it, isn't it? I learned to ride a bike, and I had a second to think about this as Peggy was answering. It was in Bowling Green, Kentucky. That's where I grew up. My family has been there a long, long time, and I recall being put on that bike, and your dad's running along with you, and then let's go. And then I think I recall this correctly. I piloted that bike directly into a bush. So that was the that was how. Now they say you never forget how to ride a bike, and I've piloted things a little bit better than that since. But that's a great question. Do you want me to give a
Not
quick
want to ride a
background?
bike. Yeah, tell us a little bit about what you are looking forward to as 65th district rep, and how when you came to Franklin. Just tell us a
Sure.
little bit about yourself.
Well, like Peggy, I came here about 6 years ago, and love that this is an area where people want to move. We've got a lot of towns and places across the country that people are moving away from, and we are a place that people are moving to for all the right reasons, I think. And so I grew up in Bowling Green and went to college down at Emory in Atlanta, and law school at Georgetown in Washington, D.C., where I'll be actually next week. Then I decided I wanted to do real estate law, so moved up to New York to do that. I couldn't think of a better place to practice real estate law than New York. Lived there for a while, and then we wanted to get away from the big city, or at least that big of a city, and looked for opportunities and ended up down in Houston, Texas. And we were there for a while, developed some friends, but ultimately decided that it was way too hot. I think that was definitely part of it. But no, we wanted to get closer to family, and so without admitting defeat and going all the way back to Bowling Green, we settled here. And Mindy, you had asked Peggy about how did she, figure out where to live, and we took a map, and on our first visit here, Houston is this big, right? And so we picked a point and said we're going to rent an Airbnb, and it's close enough to everything. No, that Airbnb was in Leaper's Fork, and we didn't know that was a thing. We didn't know what Leaper's was, and so we were out in the middle of the countryside and driving up to Green Hills every day. I don't know. We picked a point on a map and said, this is close to the zoo and it's close to the airport, and then pretty quickly we figured out that's not where we want to be at all. But we kept driving from Leapers into the Green Hills area and passing by downtown Franklin. Mac Hatcher wasn't open at that point, and then West Haven, which is where we live now. And finally, I said to my wife, I said, we got to pull into this neighborhood. This looks pretty cool from the outside, and just fell in love with the place. So that's where we live now. I am now a recovering attorney. I don't practice law anymore, and so I say I'm a better human being. But I am on the investment side of real estate, and let's see, I'm a husband to my wife, Claire. We'll be celebrating 22 years in July this year. I've got a 16-year-old daughter, Libby, a 13-year-old daughter, Dee, and a 9-year-old little boy named Archer. And it's just a great time of life. All the kids are involved in activities, and it's fun trying to keep up with all that.
So you have been involved in some community activities and organizations like the Lions Club and other things. So what prompted you to want to run for state representative?
Well, similar to what Peggy said, you have a sense of community and you want to get involved in the community. And you're right. I coming out of COVID, I wanted to get involved and started with a civic organization, the Lions Club. I was going to go visit all of the civic organizations, Kiwanis and Rotary and Lions, and I started with Lions and never got to the other ones. I am a third generation Lion. My dad was president of the Bowling Green Club. My grandfather was president of that club and then district governor in Kentucky. And so I got there and decided that was where I was needed, and circled through several different positions there. And then last year finished a year as president of that club. Got involved in the Board of Zoning Appeals and saw that a position was open on that. And if you know anything about zoning, it's involved in real estate, and I have a background in that. And it was a way for me to give back in a way that that I had experience in, and I really enjoyed sitting on that board. But then found out that our representative Sam Whitson was retiring, and took a hard look at that, and thought, well, is that a place that I can give back? And I didn't rush into that. It took me several months to figure out whether that's something I wanted to do, but ultimately committed to doing that, and have started that job in November.
So what have you learned about the legislature, being at the legislature since November, since going down? What have you learned about
that? That's a great question. I mean, a lot of it you can expect, right? You've got to draft bills, you've got to review language and that sort of thing. I think the biggest surprise for me, and we have a part-time legislature. We are in session from January to usually April sometime, and it's 4 days a week, and not 9 hours a day, but so part days. So it's part-time technically. What I have found out, and fairly quickly, is it's actually not a part-time position. You're on the job all the time. And I know I see Brandy nodding, and I know Alderman is very much the same way. You're going to events, and you're meeting people, and you're on call and responding. And it takes a lot of time outside of just sitting in session, which I haven't been in yet, but that starts tomorrow. But you have a lot of time that you're spending outside of simply being on the floor or in a committee, doing the preparation for the work in committee or on the floor.
So as you said, it's supposed to be a part-time legislator. How are you going to balance that time? I mean, you've got 3 kids, your wife is busy in her career, but also as a Williamson County School Board member. How do you balance that? How do you find the way to balance that?
We kind of had to cast our mind back to when we lived in New York a little bit, because I was working 80 to 100-hour weeks. Now, I don't intend to do that again, but I've certainly got experience being busy. And Claire was actually in grad school during that time, and then at the same institution after grad school. And so it's busy, and we've got 3 kids, and that is our priority in life, after church, and it's family. And so it is a balance. I will say a major game changer for us this year is our oldest started to drive. I mean, guys, it changed everything. So it saves us at least 2 hours of round trip taxi service. So that's huge in our lives, but you find the balance. You just have to find it.
And Libby, she attended our Vision City Conference. You and Libby attended our Vision City Conference in October of 2024.
Yep.
She wants to be an architect. Is that right?
That's exactly right. And we were excited to be there. And the Seaside Institute participated in that. And of course, West Haven uses some of the design principles of Seaside down in Florida. And so she's very interested in all that. And we were very excited to and it was so well done, by the way, that next time that happens here, I encourage anybody who's interested at all in city planning and design to come see that. One of the things that I was most impressed about is we had a mayor from, and you're going to have to correct me, is it Illinois, Indiana?
Carmel, Indiana.
Yes, who's very big on roundabouts, and that doesn't sound like an exciting topic until he presents it. But just super cool just to see how architecture and city design come together. So kudos to you guys.
Former Carmel, Indiana Mayor Jim Brainerd, and we're thinking about having him back maybe for a breakfast with the mayors, because roundabouts are coming. Some people like them, some people don't. Some people wish they were somewhere else, but they are coming. So Lee, just to just ask you a little bit more about the legislature.
Sure.
So do you know where your office is, I would assume, and you know who your assistant is, or tell us a little bit about the actual who people will be seeing, or where if they come to the legislature, how they can get to interact with you.
Well, thank you for that question. I do. I have a great legislative assistant. His name is Theo Vallis. He was with TDEC for a little while, the environmental arm of the state government, but prior to that had been in the General Assembly. And so I tell people I'm so thankful to have somebody with experience, because one of us has to in that office. But no, he's phenomenal. And I saw another representative actually do this in her district. It was a Meet My LA, and I may do that in the next coming weeks, because I think he will be the point of contact, the primary point of contact for a lot of folks. And so I would love for people to meet him down here in the district. The District 65 goes from Fairview into downtown Franklin. It covers the factory, a little wing up to the factory, and then down to Thompson Station and all the points in between. The office, I do have an office currently, but it's going to move because after the speaker gets elected, he then decides where everybody sits, and it's a big to do. So I guess I'll figure out what that's all about, but I don't know where my current office is. I did see them clearing out a space near the garage, so it may be there. But we will have a phone, and we will have access to internet either way. And when you walk in, people will be happy to guide you there.
And do you know anything about your committee appointments yet, or anything like that?
I don't. Again, I'll find out later this week. I saw the speaker last week at a thing that the new legislators were invited to out at the University of Tennessee. It was the NAFI Center. It was the Baker School of Public Policy, and the speaker came and gave a little address, and he started off by saying, "No, I don't know what the committees that you'll be on are." So I have not pushed him on that, but we'll find out this week. I have asked for several that both fit my interest, but also the interest of the community. So we'll see if I end up on Commerce Committee, which I know is so important to Williamson Inc. in the county. And Williamson Health is, who's one of the sponsors of this, is just so critical to this community. I've asked to be on the health committee. So we'll see if we end up in any of those and what it means. Wherever I end up, I'll be working very hard for the interest of my district and for the county.
Okay, thank you so much. And I know, Lee, you have to leave to get to the legislature. There's a lot going on down there. I do want to tell you, we were talking before we started about the prints behind Brandy and the one behind Emily. Mm-hmm. I had someone text me and say they bought them at the 5 Points Post Office. They bought some at the 5 Points Post Office. So we might check with Julie and Matt Brown to see if those are available. So that's just a little tidbit there. So good to know. But thank you for being here this morning. I know you have to sign off. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys.
So our next, we're going to go to Mike Ingram, who is president of the Williamson County Arts Council, or the Arts Council of Williamson County. Which is it, Mike? Speak up a little bit.
Arts Council of Williamson County.
Arts Council of Williamson County.
Yes.
So, and the reason we invited you this morning is you all do host a very popular event, which is the Art Crawl or Art Scene on the first Friday. So tell people a little bit about that event and how that has grown, or how you're including more locations.
Okay. First of all, thank you for inviting me, Mindy. I think every town needs a Mindy to make things happen. I moved here 12 years ago, and I got on the Arts Council kind of by accident. I met some people that were involved in it, and so I've actually been involved with it for about 10 years. But 2 years ago, they asked me to take over as president. And, the Art Crawl started in 2007. Kelly Harwood actually started it down at Gallery 202. And it's gone through a lot of different phases since then. And when I took over 2 years ago in January, We had just come out of COVID. The art crawl was dead. The arts council was dead. We didn't have any members. We hadn't had a meeting in about a year. So I had a lot of ideas and a lot of goals that I told these people, well, I want to do this, this, and this. And so we now have well over 200 members. The last art crawl, well, the art crawl in December, we had about 43 artists presenting work in downtown and at the factory. The factory came on board in May, and so they've been a huge help with the art crawl. We have a trolley that runs back and forth now. It's the first Friday of every month from 6 to 9 p.m. And the art crawl has been something that has just caught fire. I mean, when I came in, like I said, it was virtually dead, and it was just a matter of kind of going to the stores and saying, "Hey, you want to get in the art crawl again?" And they say, "Oh yeah, let's do it." So it's been a real positive experience. Mayor Moore has been very helpful. Also, the county mayor, Rogers Anderson, has been very helpful. So it's been a good experience, and it continues to grow every month.
Oh, I forgot to ask you the icebreaker question. Where did you learn to ride a bike, and how did it bring you to Franklin?
Yeah. Well, I grew up in a little town in southern Illinois, Mount Carmel. There's about 9,000 people. It was very much like Mayberry. Everybody knew everybody else. So went to school there. I kind of come from a family of artists. So I've always been into art. I taught art for 39 years in Evansville, Indiana, and had several picture frame stores and things like that. So I've always been involved in art in one way or another. I did a lot of work with the Ducks Unlimited organization, and we used to come down and stay at the Opryland Hotel, and like on the weekends, they used to have a deal where you could come down and stay. And so that's when I first was introduced to Franklin, and we always really liked Franklin. We thought, well, this is a great place. And so when after I retired, I went to Florida and played golf for 3 years. And I coached golf when I was teaching, and so that was a lot of fun. I had a good time doing that. And now I was looking for kind of a place to live. I had lost my wife, and I thought, well, I'm going to try Franklin. And so I came here, and it was just great. I mean, now we live on West Main Street. I walk downtown, have coffee every morning, just about. It's really a great place to be.
So you taught art, and you were involved with other people's art. So are you an artist yourself, or?
Yes, I am. Yeah,
So what
I've done just about everything. I actually worked as a commercial artist for a while, but I do a lot of painting, watercolor. I've done a lot of jewelry making, glass blowing. I used to work with Jose up here at the glass blowing shop, and before that caught on fire. And we had nothing to do with the fire, I promise. So, I heard on the radio that there'd been a fire there, and so I went over there. I had a lot of work in there, a lot of pottery. I did a lot of pottery, and I gave lessons over there, and so they had tape around the building, and the guy in a suit came to the door, and I said, I help Jose out here, and I have some work in here. I'd like to get it if I could. And he says, so how much money did you stand to make by setting this place on fire? I said, what? And it was like 4 or 5 questions like that, just in a row. And I backed up and I said, look, I had no money invested in this. I was just helping out Jose and doing some lessons, and I'm sorry, I'm leaving. And so I went back the next day, and the fire marshal was there, and he's very nice. He let me get the stuff out, and it was an interesting experience that day.
Brandy's holding up her heart from, I think, from the studio that was there where Fainting Goat is now, for people who don't know that was that glass blowing. Right. So Mike, in 2025, I mean 2024, you told me that you all have have been able to make permanent displays and locations across the city and county, and
Right.
you have some hopes and dreams for 2025. Tell us a little bit about those.
Absolutely. Yeah. That was one of the things I told my board last year. I said, look, I want to get 5 places for artists to show their work this year. Well, in December, as of December, we had 12. So it's been a really good deal. I mean, we have, well, the county mayor's office, we have a show there, a month-long show for schools in Williamson County. Each of the schools in Williamson County has the opportunity to show their children's work, their students' work there. Um, we have 2 places for artists at the post office. The stable reserve has been very helpful. When I took over the job, we didn't have any money, and the stable reserve donated a nice check, and they really helped us out. And
Great.
so the stable reserve is one of my favorite places. The bakehouse, Honest Coffee in the factory. We have a new gallery in the factory now where 2 artists are showing work. The factory, the people there have been fantastic. I can't say enough good things about them. Whitley Jewelry, it's not downtown, but we have work there. The library, the enrichment center. And this year, there's a new car museum. It's called 111 Motor Cars, and it's here in Franklin. And they have a huge amount of wall space, and they want artists there. So I've been working with that. We've got about 4 artists working on that. Harbor and Union, that's building 2 at the factory. They have a lot of wall space. They want a lot of art, so we're going to be providing art for there. And another thing that I've wanted since we started is I want a brick and mortar building in downtown Franklin for the Arts Council to be there, have a presence. And I think that a lot of towns around here, like Murfreesboro, has a fantastic big building right downtown. It's a fine arts center. And artists can come in there and give lessons, musicians perform. Besides just the artists that I have about 50 musicians that are constantly wanting to do music in downtown Franklin. And we ran into an ordinance. You can't be heard more than 60 feet away. And so I'm working to get that thing.
Randy, you have something on unmute?
It's actually 50 feet, and that was put in. It's been around for a while, but we actually worked on it quite heavily a couple of years ago based off some gathering at the town square. So I don't know that you'll get that changed because it actually affects more than just what you're looking to do. So there's reasons for that.
Okay. At the art crawl, I try to have a lot of artists, but there's a lot of musicians that like to participate. And so, I mean, if there would be, if we could be on private property, it's okay. And is it still the idea that if you can hear them even on private property, it's a problem?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Well, and that protects people who have event venues and neighbors who don't want to hear wedding singers and or karaoke. One thing you might want to check into, it could be costly, is special event permits. But I don't know if there is a limit for how many you can get, but that could help you in some respect as well.
Right.
Oh, great.
I have checked in on that, and that is very expensive. And so I'm actually trying to get some sponsors to possibly help us out with that. The Arts Council operates on a really small budget. It's $35 a year to be a member, and so we don't have a lot of money. And it really helps when people make donations, and I'm constantly on the lookout for somebody to do that.
So, Mike, y'all are really, you go when there's snow, when there's ice. There's very few things that stop the art crawl. It seems to me y'all are in it to win it, right?
Right. And now with the factory, doesn't matter what the weather is. In January, January 3rd, we actually had an art crawl, and yeah, it was cold. We had a lot of people dropped out. I think we had like 25 people participate that time. But you know, I think it's really a good thing for the merchants.
Yeah.
It brings people in, and we. I know I used to have picture frame stores and galleries, and I mean, we were always open for all the events like that because it brought us money, and so we're happy to stay open and provide artists year round.
Well, so the next one is what date? February
7th, I think.
February 7th. So we always try Franklin tomorrow. We try to promote the art crawl and get people involved. And Mike was one of our winners in our volunteer awards recently for his
I really
hard work.
appreciate that. Yeah.
And so we appreciate that. And Mike, thank you so much for joining us this morning. And we've got one more presentation, and you're welcome to stay on,
Okay.
or you can go back, do something else. But
I'll stay on.
Great. So
Right.
Brandy Blanton is here today, not really as the elected official that she is, alderman. She's here in her semi-new role as the CEO and president of the Circle of Giving. So Brandy, I said that, but now I have to ask you, where did you learn to ride a bike?
You know, it's funny. I automatically wanted to say Franklin, and then I had to check myself. You will be surprised. It was Miami, Florida.
Wow.
Yeah. So born in Nashville, moved to Miami in 1972 after my mother's divorce, and did not get to Franklin until 1977.
Okay.
So I've been here almost 47 years. So yeah.
Okay. So tell people what the Circle of Giving is and what your role is.
Sure. It's funny, people to know is really not the moniker that lands on my head this morning, because the person you need to know, I am speaking on behalf of our artist, Mike, you'd be glad to know, Ken Means, who is the backbone of the Circle of Giving, with our Carousel of Dreams by Ken Means. Mike's mentioned the factory, and I have the pleasure to have joined their team back in May of this year. Just kind of like picking up the baton of a vision they had to honor Ken's work, who was a tenant of the factory with his studio there. Many of you might remember as you walked in the front door to the left, he had a studio space there where he would actually carve his animals. He is 86 years old, and Oregon is really his home state. And that is where he still has a studio, carved the majority of these.
And his wife.
Yes, Betty, his wife, jumped on board. I guess if you can't beat them, join them. We do have a room at the factory that is kind of hidden. It's called the Menagerie Room, which houses 32 animals that he has carved. It is a menagerie because this carousel is not going to be made up of just horses. We have rooster, we have a zebra, we have giraffe, we have a toad, a couple donkeys. But they are housed there in preparation. If you've been to the factory recently, on the north side where you enter the alleyway, our building is coming up, and it is 2,600 square foot building that will house the Carousel of Dreams, and it will have garage doors. We plan to be open all year long. And the beautiful thing about my job that I love so much is that when you go to ride the carousel, which we hope to be open April, May, you will pay a nominal fee. And at the end of the year, the net proceeds of that venture are going to be given back to charities in Williamson County through the Circle of Giving. So it's really exciting. I am learning every day, learning more about, number one, starting a nonprofit, yikes, and also to just how blessed we are to have this carousel that will house the incredible work of two people, which is really unusual. We had a launch back in December, and I mentioned the fact that there are less than 200 carousels in the United States today. So for us to have a carousel that is curated and created by one man and his wife is pretty amazing. So the best way that I can tell you how wonderful Ken is by to show you a video, Emily. Tree Line Bamboo is also a tenant at the factory. They're in the process of working on a documentary 2 years in, and they have given me this 4-minute clip just to tease people. So please enjoy this.
I don't know of very few things in life that can give you in 3 minutes what a carousel can. You can travel any place in the world. You're only limited by your own imagination. I'm Ken Means. I'm a master woodcarver and artist. I started carving as a whim. The first animal that I carved was a rocking horse for my children. My youngest daughter still has that horse.
What I do remember is thinking that the rocking horse was alive, and it was my best friend. It's pretty freaking awesome. My dad made it for me, you know? He makes things happen. If something doesn't work, he has a part somewhere, and he's gonna figure out how to make it work. And my mom's the same way.
That's right there. Is it?
They're the best combo. They bicker like nobody's business.
Stand up, Stu. I am.
But they support each other 100%.
Carousel animals are like potato chips. As a carver, you just can't do one. If you do one, it stimulates the possibility of doing another animal or another horse. That's what inspires me to create something better than the last one. Pretty soon, instead of having 1 or 2 animals, I had 6, I had 8, I had 10. I said, what are we gonna do with these darn things? I said, you know, we got all these animals, let's just build a carousel. And it's just been a go since then.
Ken Means is one of the finer carvers and painters and sculptors that I've ever met.
Guys like Ken Means are really rare. To find a hand carver who can make a wooden sculpture from a bunny to a sea dragon is just unheard of.
His creativity is beautiful. His artwork is a masterpiece.
He wants to put on a functioning carousel, a dream that I'm sure a lot of carvers have had, but very few realize.
People just think that these things appear without knowing what's involved in the actual creation of a carousel. So many things you need. So that part of it was kind of scary. Some days I get discouraged. It's not right. It's just not right. Zip it off. Let's take a look. Wow. And then the next day I'm back up, ready to go.
Carousels, I love them. It's something that people really enjoy.
It doesn't matter what age you are. Come in grumpy or crying, you ride a carousel, you will leave happy. To me, that is what this world needs.
In my heart, the biggest thing is his dream is coming true. You go through a lot of things in life trying to support a family. So the fact that you don't give up and that you keep working towards it, things can happen.
It's important to me that this carousel be built to leave something behind that people can use and enjoy for 100 years. That's quite a legacy.
That's just beautiful, Brandy. So exciting.
every time I watch that, and I've only seen it probably about 10 times, it still moves me. I think their relationship is so beautiful, but his relationship and just how he's pouring into his art is incredible. I will tell you though, as I am continuing to raise funds, there are some startup funds. We're raising capital. Now when I look at these animals that flash across the screen, I'm now thinking, oh, there's Windwalker and Walton's has adopted Windwalker. And there's Hidalgo and Matt and Julie Brown have adopted that animal. So it's taking on a new life for me. I look at Aslan, which is the lion from The Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe, and Middle Tennessee Electric adopted that animal. So that has been what I've been doing lately. We've got about 14 animals left that can be adopted by a person, a couple, or a business, and they will be recognized with a plaque at the base of the animal on the carousel. We are also offering for people if they want to become a founding donor. That level starts at $2,500, goes up to about 15,000, and that will be recognized with their name on our building. And then my first donation came December 9th at our launch. And it was a really good friend who handed me a check for $100. Didn't even have a bank account yet. I do now. And what we're doing with any donation people want to make, you will be recognized as a friend on our website, which is thecircleofgiving.org. So
Great.
it's good stuff.
So I just want to go back. So
Sure.
it seems like all this to Ken means is about beauty and art, but also about family. That's how
Absolutely.
he came to Franklin, right?
So Ken and Betty, as I mentioned, lived in Oregon. They have two daughters, and one of their daughters, Chanina, had to practice that name. Janina and her husband moved to Nashville. He was a producer for the show Nashville. And she called her dad up and she said, Dad, I've just rented you studio space at the factory in Franklin. And he said, Where's that? She said, You have 5 grandchildren and you and mom need to be in their lives. And he was very unsure about that move. But she said, Well, it's just going to sit here for a year if you don't use it. So they made the move to Franklin. Actually, they don't live in Franklin at the current time. They've moved to Signal Mountain in Chattanooga, following Janina and her family again. So anytime I get with them is quite precious. I plan to go see them 1st of February as we get closer and closer to the finish line. Ken has not only done the animals, he and Betty are carving all the accoutrements, all of the displays you will see that just make it be a comprehensive carousel. So it's pretty exciting.
And just to clarify, if someone wants to adopt, or if someone or an organization or business wants to adopt an animal, you are
Yes.
taking pledges over a period of time, correct?
Yes, thank you. I mean, this project started for me in May, which we all know is the middle of a budget year for everyone. And I think just to make it more approachable, if you do the lower, I say lower end, I'm probably the smaller animals are $15,000, which is a lot of money, but we accept pledges where you can pay that over 3 years. And if you go up to the next level, which is 20, it goes to 4 years. So it makes it where we're not taking money out of people's budgets so that they're not able to give to their typical initiatives and things of that nature. So I've had great success. Alan Arender is very proud of me right now, so that's good. Got some job security for the time being, but I have a great board I've assembled, and my hope is a year from now, the carousel will be up and running and I can really expound upon what the Circle of Giving can be for our community. I have neglected to say it publicly, and I'm going to continue to make it a part of my diatribe, but trying to figure out branding for all this. My daughter Samantha is the one that finally said, Mom, why don't you just call it the Circle of Giving? So Samantha gets credit for that.
So it's a wonderful thing, and we're excited to see it. And thanks for being here this morning.
Absolutely.
And thanks to
One more
everyone.
thing, if I may.
Uh-huh.
We will be, it's hard to find an operator. When I say operator, I'm talking about a person. I'm not going to be the one sitting there pushing the on and off button. I mean, I'll be able to, but that's not, Mindy's laughing. She's like, no, that is not your job. So one of the things that I've discovered as we've traveled around to other carousels, which has been fun, a lot of these people use volunteers. And so if you go to our website, it's not up there yet, but thecircleofgiving.org, I have talked to so many city retirees, retired educators, principals, and I really think that that's going to be a great way for us not only to have people who know our community and can continue to introduce tourists to what we are, but I think it's a great way for people to stay active in something, especially if they love children in this manner. So look for opportunities to be a volunteer for the Carousel of Dreams by Ken Means as well.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Brandy. Someone texted me or emailed me and said, Mindy, you didn't tell where you learned to ride a bike. And so I guess the answer probably is Jeffersonville, Indiana, where I was born. But I don't know. Would have been 8 or so, and I probably learned to ride a bike. But I know that it had a cool banana seat and really cool handlebars with little things that hung off of it. But it definitely was a cool banana seat bike.
Me as
Probably
well.
green. Yeah, it might have been in Nashville, Tennessee, where we moved when I was 9 years old and where I grew up. So I would not ride a bike today if my life depended on it, probably, as I tend to be accident prone. And so I wouldn't do that. But that's where I learned to ride a bike. And I came to Franklin for growing up in Nashville, we came to Franklin often for dinner or things like that. And then for my first job, came to Franklin in 1983, I think that was. So been here quite a while. All right, so we have a couple other things to tell you about, just to show you on our PowerPoint quickly, just to remind you that Breakfast with the Mayors is coming up January 28th. We'll put the registration up today, later today, and send out an email to past attendees to have you register for that. That will be all of the mayors of Williamson County joining Williamson County Mayor Rogers Anderson and Franklin Mayor Dr. Ken Moore. All the mayors of the Williamson County cities have said they will be present, and so we're excited about that. But I mentioned earlier that Mike is a past winner in our Exemplary Community Volunteer Awards. This is our 18th annual Volunteer Awards. Will be February 19th at the factory at Franklin. No, sorry. Woo, the Franklin Theater. Why did I say that? Oh, my brain. Franklin Theater. We'll be at the Franklin Theater for that event. It will be free, but we'll have people RSVP because there is limited seating. But right now, nominations are open for the volunteer awards through January 24th. And you can go to our website, franklintomorrow.org, and at the top, click on events, and you'll see the Exemplary Community Volunteer Awards link that will tell you about the actual awards, as well as how to nominate someone online. We are looking for nominations in categories like volunteer spirit, youth award, also the emerging leader, which is someone 21 to 40 years old, neighbor to neighbor. There are a number of categories, and so we're excited about that. We also will present the Charles M. Sargent Leadership Award, named in honor of our late state representative Charles Sargent, a dear friend of Brandy's, that will be presented, as well as the A&T Rutherford Exemplary Community Volunteer Award. Miss Ann's was the first award given by Franklin Tomorrow 18 years ago, and she just turned 101 last week. And so she is a wonderful example of volunteerism in our community, and we are excited about those. Those awards are decided by the Franklin Tomorrow Leadership Executive Council, and so we'll be deciding those awards. But the community and other nonprofits, individuals can nominate individuals and organizations for these awards, which all carry a cash prize. And so we would encourage you to go to franklintomorrow.org, click on events, and look at the Exemplary Community Volunteer Awards. Very simple, just a little write-up of the individual, and submit those. And the awards will be February 19th at the Franklin Theater. Thank you to Greenwich Bank for being a sponsor for that event, along with Williamson Memorial Funeral Home and Cremation Service, because this event also includes a very meaningful in memoriam to volunteers and community leaders who've passed away in the last year. And we really appreciate the hard work that goes into that with Williamson Memorial. And so the event will be free, and we look forward to having a great support from the community. But right now it's about nominations. Just put them in there. You never know. We're looking for the salt of the earth here in Williamson County, and there are a lot of people who are so generous with their time and do that. So I think that's everything I have, unless Emily tells me something different. So we do hope to see you January 28th, 7 a.m., Rolling Hills Community Church for Breakfast with the Mayors. And we'll be back in February with our next Frank Talks, hopefully in person. So we look forward to seeing you. Go out and make it a great day. Thanks so much.